Hey, good evening, everyone. I guess I'm the last presentation. I hope I can give you something a little different. I'm Ingemar Mathiasson, Northwest Arctic Borough from up in Alaska. I used to live in a little village of Ambler that you can see right here. It's above the Arctic Circle, 80 miles up. First things, MIT for selecting our presentation and letting us present on this real world transition. We're going to hope to get to about 25% renewables by 2030. Okay, let's see here. So this one, I usually like to introduce my things with. Don't cling to old resources if you know that they are endangering you. Survival can be at stake. Up there, the resources, of course, that we no longer want to use is the oil. It's now endangering everything up there. The Arctic environment is melting down very, very fast. And there's all kinds of erosion problems. Things are ripping apart. Putting in renewable energy projects in this kind of environment is challenging, to say the least. Some background. We are at not a critical point in the future. The reason that I'm putting these two stars here is that in 2008, we had a peak of oil that we thought we were going to all run out of oil. I don't know if you all remember, 2008 is when I started to work for the borough. It's been 16 years now. We didn't know about the climate problem back then. We're looking at Hubble's peak, that we were going to run out of oil. And that's why we started our energy steering committee that you can see here. The entire region came together to try to see what we could do about the incredible rising cost that more than doubled the cost in overnight. Putting the two stars side by side to see where we are. This is Brent crude over the years out in the world. And as you can see, it fluctuates quite a bit. And our prices up in the region does not. They just keep going up. We are now at an average of 10.40 per gallon for retail fuel up there. And it's getting almost impossible to continue civilization. So what do we do? Well, in 2008, we all came together in a big meeting, brought in all the leaders, and decided to go for an energy plan that is now on the 16th year, that we keep updating and transit to different new technologies as we go forward. We are on track 2025 at about 10% decrease. We're hoping 25 by 2030 and 50 hopefully by 2050. But there's very limited amount of renewable resources. We have wind, we have solar, and a little bit of hydro, and that's about it. So we're going to live with diesel fuel for the foreseeable future, no matter what we do, most likely. These are the prices right now. In the little town where I used to live, it's now $18.50 a gallon. You don't go very far if you're going to have $18.50 a gallon doing a boat or anything out there. There's also a big difference between what the utility companies are buying fuel for versus where it's actually selling for retail. That has to do with that the utilities buy as conglomerates across the whole Alaska, and then they hedge for the fuel prices a year in advance. Where the little villages, when they are going to sell their fuel, they have to buy it on their own. So it's a big problem for us. These are the electric rates equivalent. You can see that Ambler Coburg here is at over $1 and $1.21 right here. These are the actual cost of electricity. And in Alaska, there's something called the PCE fund that brings down the actual cost to the households to this level. It varies a little bit because of the fixed cost is going up in these communities. And when we go over $1, I'll explain here in a second on the PCE fund and how that works. This is the background. It's a sovereign fund of part of Alaska from the oil. It's about $1 billion. And from that, the proceeds are measured out to the households so that the households can be brought down to the level of 21.6 is the current one in July. The program goal is, of course, to balance out so that it becomes a one stamp electric rate for all of Alaska's households. And it works fairly well, but it creates a problem when we're putting in the renewable energy systems. A grant-funded solar array can be installed for a utility, a household, or a community facility behind the meter, on the roof or whatever, right? Immediately, the cost to the entity decreases, of course, but the PCE payout to the community is no longer there. The replacement, the repair is then carried by the utility. I mean, or household. Whoever has solar array has to keep doing the repair of it. However, if we take the same solar array and put it together as an independent power producer and give it to the tribes, these are 10 villages who are basically tribe-oriented, then the utility can buy that power at an avoided fuel rate. The cost becomes part of the PC equation. The PC endowment is preserved, and repairing cost is then borne by the IPP, and they don't lose it. So we're transiting, taking away the actual producing systems away from the utility, giving it to the tribes or other entities that then will operate them separate from the utility, and the utility themselves are becoming just a transmission entity, selling the power, taking care of the actual grid, where the communities themselves then increase their sovereignty by producing their own energy. This is the formula that's used in Alaska to do that. And there is basically a limit to $1 that's becoming a problem. We're going to try to raise it a little bit so that some of the communities can get a little bit more PCE, but it's basically the proceeds from the fund that is distributed. The cost of residential power in Shungnak in 2022, 88 cents. And when you divide it up to an IPP, then this little piece here, the 15% difference, is preserved and can be given to the IPP. This is the average household electric use. I'm putting this as a reference only, that you can see that all of them are basically making 500 or using 500 kilowatt hours per month continuously. That's the averaged out. But they have 750 available. So it can go a little bit higher. There's left over here 10 million kilowatt hours for a value of $2.2 million for the community buildings, equivalent to a little bit more than $500,000. This is what the formula does. And the reason that I'm putting this up is that we also want to add heat pumps into the household. We want them to go a little bit higher than the 500, still staying within that 21 to 23 cent per kilowatt hour limit, so that they can get good electricity, low electricity, to offset the diesel fuel, which happens to be $18 a gallon. So we found out that this is what happens. Behind the meter operation in Shungnak, the value, because of the PCE loss, if you're putting it on a household or utility, is $55,000. But if you give it to an IPP, the value is $122,000. So it was way better to create the IPP, preserve the PCE fund, and give that amount of money divided out to the households directly. So because of the PCE formula in Alaska, it's not as easy to do the transition. We actually have to get all the entities to work together to get it to work. If it's just the utility building it, the price for the household stays the same. The only thing that happens is the base rate go down. And the base rate on a microgrid in Alaska is only affecting the schools and the commercial operations. That base rate goes down a little bit, but the households never change. And there is no reason to bring down the cost for the schools. They are actually powered by outside entities. They're not paid for by the communities themselves. They're also the anchor tenants. So if you try to take a school off the grid in a microgrid in Alaska, you're going to have raised the electric rate for everybody else. So we cannot take the schools off. They are the anchor tenants. And whatever they cost out there, but we can't put renewables on them, because that would raise the cost for everybody else. So in 1997, KEA in Kotzebue started with wind turbines. They have been expanding that ever since. They are now also running solar. in 2008 to 2015, I was involved in putting in wind turbines for Buckland and Deering. And in that particular grant, this little note in 2008, 2009 showed up as a condition of the grant. Independent power producers could agree to sell energy resources for electricity and heat at cost-based rate for the economic life of the project. We were not even thinking about IPPs in 2008. But the amazing thing is that this was in the grant. So in 2021, when I found it again, I thought about that. And then we decided that when we put a solar array into Shungnak, we were going to give that solar array to the tribe and become the IPP, preserve the PCE. So now Buckland and Deering has been also turned into IPPs. We have given the wind turbines away from the utility back to the tribe so they could now collect the IPP also. 2012, we put solar up there for the first time. Got a grant up there that was actually Coastal Impact Assistant grant to clean up the environment. It was about $500,000 to start with. And I called DC and said we wanted to use it to clean up the environment. And they go, how do you clean up the environment with solar arrays? I said, we're going to put them on the water plants. Oh, what happened here? Oh, we're going to put them on the water plant to decrease the amount of diesel fuel for electric generation and clean the environment up. And they go, well, it's dark in Alaska, isn't it? How are you going to do it? It's not dark in Alaska. We have 24 hours all summer long. And we convinced them that, okay, if we can harvest it in the summer as much as we can, we have 24-hour sun, can't we do that? What are you going to do in the winter? We'll try something else in the winter, but would you like, could we try it at least? So they gave us the money. And by 1 year later, we had what we needed to do. We had capacity of about 10 to 11% capacity of solar at that latitude. Oh, this keeps coming up. So this is the amazing array that we put together at 180 degrees. Up there, the sun doesn't go up and down, it goes around the horizon, right? So you need a different construction of arrays. And then you get a really broad power curve so that you can match the generators much, much better. So in 2021, we started to put together the IPPs. And these are the first solar arrays created, a small 23 kilowatt array, and this is about 140 here in two of the villages. And 2021, the Shungnak project came into existence together with a battery. And this particular project went around the world. A grant opportunity was created by USDA High Energy Cost Grant. Two communities, Shungnak and Kobu, came together with an MOA. They had tied together with an intertie anyway. And then a power purchase agreement was executed with AVAC, which happens to be the utility. And another MOA was executed with Northwest Arctic Borough, where I'm a manager for the borough. We also created an investment energy fund for the communities. Funds was dispersed as needed for insurance, maintenance, and eventual for the build out of the array. This was 21, now it's 24. It's been running since then, very nice. Here's a little bit of layout of it, no big deal. Solar arrays and solar inverters, a Gito microcontroller, a back and forth meter to the utility so we can measure in, and a Blue Planet phosphate battery. And it's been running excellent ever since. Here's a power curve from it as of the end of July 2024. 565 megawatt hours, equal to 40,000 some gallons not needed, together with 1,500 hours of diesel off operation, equal to about 2 months of clean energy. Imagine a community that has diesel power 24/7 since the 60s, early 60s. Suddenly, the diesel generators are off. The amazing quiet in that little community when that happened. And they could run straight on the sun for several hours during the day. It was amazing enough. Here's a couple of power curves just to show how we can work. These, the yellow ones are where diesels are off. And by exercising the battery 2 or 3 times even during the day, almost to 90 to 100%. Can time shift the solar so that we don't lose it. There was several different algorithms created over the years to see which is the better way to do this. Here's a power off that was not noticed by the community. You can see the generators went off here, battery took over, kicked back in, and then it continued, and the community didn't even know it happened. The utility operator did. He worked on his generator for an hour. Here's the net financials for that little system. They bring in about 120,000. These are the expenses. And current status, this was 490, about 152. They're at about 200,000 now that they can distribute out to the households for lower cost of energy in the community. It got the Sony Awards in 21. We went down to San Diego and got the Sony Awards award as the most equitable solar array system community built in the nation. And the amazing thing with this, when we were in San Diego, is they go, there's a difference between this one and all the other community solar arrays in the nation. They have a battery. No other community arrays in the entire United States had a battery, and we are operating it. The tribe is running. We are actually running the utility. We are controlling the utility instead of the other way around. So that it's a pretty interesting arrangement. We also got the Project of the Year award in 2020. So why develop independent power producers? The community is taking control of their energy future, creating buy-in and good relationship with the utility. When we started this, some of the communities wanted to get rid of their utility because they kept turning off the power. They couldn't pay for it. And after this fact, now we have, in each community, there's 2 governments, the city government and a tribal government. Now they work together. It's their project. They make their own energy, and they're selling it to the utility, which was the enemy before. Much happier. Sovereignty is amazing in how people feel about it. So it sustains PC support, doing an IPP, better economics, funding collected, pays for further development, the local workforce expertise. Money stays in the community instead of sending out oils to some far-off country. It's energy unity, regional support to apply and manage the energy grants. These communities are very small, down to a few hundred people in some of them. Economy of scale, and develop regional energy infrastructure. And energy security, admin help for independent power producers, for utility rates and billing, job creation, workforce development, and the region speaking with one voice, all needed to stop the increasing course of energy. Here's our regional layout for how we operate. There's a regional operation, native corporation that is NANA, and then the borough, which is North Astartic Borough. And then we have a steering committee that consists of a member of one of all 11 communities are sitting on this board that together we meet twice a year, spring and fall, and we continuously look at the energy plan and how to upgrade it and how to further develop it. So how much is the clean and renewable energy? Well, currently it's at 11%. Shungnak and Kobuk at 11, Deering at 17, Buckland at 10, Kotzebue at 19 to 30. This is of the electricity, not the heating fuel, just electricity, right? So 11% total for the whole region. And Kotzebue itself, which is a pretty big operation, the city is 4,000 people, so fairly small compared to in the lower 48, but it's the largest city up there. And we have an OSED request with funding that has been approved, almost $55 million. We're putting in some ourselves for a total project of $68 million to build this out, to maximize the amount of solar that we can do at that latitude. This is the way it would look when we complete it. About 328,000 gallons saved per year at the value of what $1.8 million to come into the communities that they would split then over year by year. And this is only the solar project, not the wind included, only the solar. And that will produce about 25% of the electricity for the region. Split out between everything. Kotzebue is 13 at that point. We should reach about 21 to 25 total for each community as far as it goes. But building solar beyond that, then you're going to need a lot more battery, and you're going to need to oversize the arrays and keep time shifting more and more economically, financially. It's not something that we can do now. I mean, the batteries would have to come down a lot in price to time shift that latitude to have more solar. Even at the equator, you only have 50%. We have a level. So we also decided to do heat pumps. So what's going on here? Anyone? 2 minutes. Yeah, okay. What's happening here? This guy got a heat pump installed in his house. He was out hunting. Yeah. It was September. It was way too warm out. He decided to suck the heat out of the meat and put it in the house. When we put that in with Panasonic, it went around the world. They really liked that. So of course, Alaska and Maine has the same problem with diesel fuel, and harvest season for heat pumps is the same as for solar PV. Courtesy Efficiency Maine that we started to look into a few years back. They have been doing an amazing job with heat pumps. This is quite a while ago, actually, but from the East Coast, people are adopting heat pumps across the nation. So 750 kilowatt hour PCE is, of course, good. So we're going to do Mitsubishi heat pumps for everyone. We have an onboard calculator in Ambler. That is the savings per year at a fuel rate of $12, which is now 18. So this is a little bit off. So saving over 14 years is $35,000 per household up there, which is now a lot higher. So once we get the solar in place, adding heat pumps in, we're offsetting even more fuel, and then the savings are higher. Here's the COP curves according to our calculator, which is online if everybody wants to try it. It works at different latitudes. We're also modeling the demand of the grid. The grid is going to have, the small grids are going to have to be upgraded. Some of the transformers are marginal to be able to add the heat pumps in there. And we also figuring out if we can run the generators higher. So the generators also has to go a little higher to be able to modify this whole setup with heat pumps and everything. And again, more modeling between Feldhaus and BTU heat pumps versus 18 that is ongoing that we are constantly evaluating. Statistical report, $25 million if all households have a heat pump per year over 14 years. 1.7 million could be saved per year. And the steering committee keeps going on all the time, every year. So what's the needed is the clear vision from the future for the people, by the people. And do we develop energy resources for short-term profits or develop resources that can sustain the region for foreseeable future and be clean? Fiber and interties we're dreaming about. This is a very hard environment to try to do it in, yet fiber is going to be put in. We're looking at possible DC lines to connect the villages together. And there's also a hydro project. The dreams are important when we go forward, when we talk to all the communities about what's possible and not possible, and keeping them on the forefront when we're discussing where to go, now solar, wind earlier, solar, hydro, and try to get there. And I think that's it.
Inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quite good. Thank you very much. Thank you for finishing and showing us what we've done in our small communities.
Yeah, thank you.
With your guidance, nobody else. Wow. But thank you. Thank you all. Many people.